Hey everybody, how's it going? What's your name? That's cool. My name is Jake. Welcome back to more CSGO news. As per usual, all of today's stories will be timestamped down below so you can jump around to all the crazy stories out there. The first of which brought to us by Decay. Yeah, we're gonna hop right into it, guys. This one, a gift from the man himself, that being the GenG roster slowly coming to a close out there, and what couldn't be a bigger surprise. Yes, apparently the fifth member, now newly announced, it was going to be Som and Sick as a stand-in player. The trio of Cloud9 to round out those four players. Sick will not be staying, but to replace him as the fifth member will be apparently Tyloo's very own BnTeT. This is a weird one. This is a curveball, really out of nowhere, not expected. And the first thing I think about, literally read that headline, and you just go, rest in peace, Tyloo. Your swell runs back in 2016, maybe 2017. I hope they were worth it because your star player is now ours in North America. If this does come true, which of course, when Decay reports it, a very high % likelihood that this will be the final GenG member. And I really do. I like this, guys, especially when it comes to GenG's ties to the Asian scene. Of course, they're also known for Call of Duty, also known for League of Legends, where that presence does come from, and to now sign that same kind of presence for a CSGO roster in BnTeT, who could be your very best player. A lot of people talking about the fall off of Automatic. I think when it comes time for peak forms out there, Automatic and now BnTeT will be your star-studded talent, and that could make a roster. Will it make a roster? I have no idea, right? We're going to see how these guys mesh. BnTeT does speak English, but when it comes time for a surprise fifth member to actually bump my confidence in this roster, this is what's needed, okay? If it was going to be some other NA star boy out there, I probably would have been a bit doubtful with an ex-Envy, ex-Cloud9 roster who did not work on their previous teams to all of a sudden start working on GenG. It didn't add up. They needed something spicy. This is something spicy. Apparently, GenG set to sign BnTeT as their fifth and final member. And one last side note as well. I'm not going to talk about it, okay? Yes, GenG performed last night with Sick in the Katowice North American qualifiers. Whenever I say North American, and whenever I say North American qualifiers, and whenever I say North American mixed teams, you know anything can happen. GenG and their not solidified roster, they had Sick still as a stand-in player. They lose to an NA mixed team known as Just for Fun. Wardell, Sabrosa, Vanity, I believe Curry's on the come up as well. Another player I think is No One or Nobody. They lose in a best of one matchup, eliminated by an NA mixed team who go on also to beat Envy as well. It's an incomplete team in GenG who has not played together, and an incomplete Envy roster who just lost Som, amongst obviously being very broken as well. It's not a huge surprise, okay? And I'm not going to talk about it. That's not the GenG that I have faith in or some faith in, but still an NA mixed team out there so far in the North American qualifiers making a shakeup. GenG goes down, Envy follows to Wardell, Sabrosa, Vanity, and the boys. That's NA for you. That's just for sure. And following all the sorts of controversy around the Astralis clip, which did surface from this previous weekend, again, I must reiterate, though, many of pros are actually on Astralis' side when it comes to crowd interference or crowd help or crowd hints. Most pro players in their right mind, especially if they don't influence it, would take that help, right? If a crowd all of a sudden starts cheering, you're going to obviously use that intel to the best of your advantage, and most pro players have actually backed Astralis in this ever since the clip that did surface, in case you guys did miss it.
I got you. Yeah, the two of them been duking it out. He was actually just checking for the little boost on the spool, so he was not ready for this. Or is he? My goodness, how interesting. Zipex through underpass. He's got Glaive in tow as well. And they get the frag. Unbelievable.
But I thought it was very curious because ever since then, several pro players have not only backed Astralis, but also backed their points on why the current stage setup, when it comes to the big stages out there, the big events, it just does not work out, especially when it comes to a lot of pro players taking advantage of things that a lot of community members had no idea could be taken advantage of, especially when it comes to the sound system, the speakers on stage when it comes to these big events, and especially when it comes to playoff matchups or any events when it comes to a team versus a team on that stage setup. It comes down to the speakers itself. We had Zipex, we had Dupree, we had Rops, all confirm in their final post about this that all players out there take advantage of the sound systems when it comes to nades, whether it be flashbangs or mollies or so on and so forth. The pop, the way it hits and you hear it on that stage sound system gives it away directly if you've actually hit a player. And even further than that, a fourth pro has now confirmed this, which pretty much means it's a common fact out there, and a lot of pro players are taking advantage of things that on stage you could could not hear at home. You could not hear in a private match or an online match as well. Even Config on HLTV confirmed. That full podcast/interview will be linked down below. He reaffirmed everything these other pros have been saying. There are distinct advantages that pro players do take on stage that should not be influencing CSGO pro play at all.
Coming soon, they're setting up for grenades. Or if you're flashing somewhere and you can hear in the speakers that the flash explodes, then you know that they're blind and you know that someone is near you. So you use it to your advantage all the time. And I think like when you're sitting at home, you can't use it, and I don't think it should be a possible thing to use at tournaments as well. Like giving an indicator, like you see Shocks and all these type of players, even myself, shaking the aim at the wall, spamming sometimes. And if the crowd says, yeah, then you know, bro, he's right here.
And we've already talked about the issues about this when it comes to TOs and soundproof booths. Dota is known for these soundproof booths. It can be very expensive, okay? A lot of us get that. Alongside that, it's been confirmed as a fire hazard for some events as well. And so will other TOs in 2020 pick this up and try and change competitive play? And will it be a huge impact as well on competitive play? I have no idea. There's obviously the downsides to it in terms of cost and efficiency, and of course it being against fire code for some places, but a lot of upside as well where we get to see legitimate pro play and not influenced by what's being put on the stage in front of these players in terms of the speakers and sound systems. Now, very lastly for all of you guys, 2 closing stories about Visa issues that will probably make you very happy. Now, kind of the downturn of that happy is, of course, W0xic will not be playing with Mouz Sports at CS Summit 5 as Mouz does compete for their back-to-back-to-back triple weekend title run to continue at CS Summit 5, which they did have a pretty good chance at, and now maybe not so much. OG, this will be their debut appearance, and now looking pretty strong. We'll see if they can take CS Summit 5. It will be Natosaphix replacing W0xic, though, because apparently the visa issue process, well, they didn't know about it ahead of time, at least not too much ahead of time, and therefore they had no chance. This is not the past instances. W0xic has had his visa issues in terms of getting accepted, actually been, I believe, denied, or at least not even applied a couple times in the past instances. This time around, though, the team did not have enough warning ahead of time to even try for that process, so he was not denied. There was not enough time anyway for him to go to the event, and what better player to actually sign in his place as a stand-in than Natosaphix? I will certainly be cheering for Mouz Sports this weekend as Nato is now returned yet again, and we'll see if he can maybe show off some of those skills and get signed himself. My boy, on top of that, guys, speaking very lastly of these issues out there, do not fear Furia fans as well. It will not be Hen1 kicked from the roster as people did think. He too will also be replaced by a stand-in Gary. I know I mispronounced that, guys. It's probably Gary, but I'm gonna stick with Gary, guys. He will not be being kicked from the roster or replaced at all. It's actually a visa renewal issue, which will be done as well. So do not fear, Furia fans out there. Hen1 is staying on your roster as of right now, renewing his visas as those issues do continue to be a bit prevalent in the CSGO scene. Until next time, I hope you guys all enjoy the breakdown of CSGO news. I'll be back here all day long breaking down other news as well. Until then, take care of yourselves, okay? All right. Bye.